All right, so while we wait for everybody to arrive, you can maybe grab a cup of tea. I've got my favorite Earl Grey tea in my gigantic mug, which says, "Be awesome today and every day." So maybe grab a cup of tea or a glass of water. And I would suggest a notepad and pen because I'm going to be answering lots of questions today, all of your questions. So while we wait for everybody to arrive, you can just get yourself settled. If you're watching the recording, you might want to just skip the first couple of minutes while everyone arrives, and or just go and grab yourself a notepad and pen. But I was just saying that it's really nice to see people that I've been communicating with for years via email, or that have done my trainings, but they weren't live online like this. And then to actually see their faces is like, oh my gosh, it's like, I feel like I know you, but I didn't know what you looked like. So it's been really nice. All right, so we got some people here who are obviously doing my teacher training, so I get to see you for about 10 hours a week, which is so lovely. And obviously you've just missed me so much that you have to spend your weekends with me too. And some new people, which is really nice. Some people who like just signed up for the Fiesta like 20 minutes ago, so are totally new to me. And so for those of you that don't know me and those of you that are watching the recording, this morning, well, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, it's just all about asking any questions that you have with regards to children's yoga, mindfulness, family yoga, teen yoga. And my background is predominantly in education. So before I was a kids yoga teacher, before I opened up Divine Light Yoga 5 years ago, I was an international school teacher. So I'm from the UK, trained in education and special needs in the UK, worked in all sorts of settings from children's hospices, hospitals, obviously schools, special needs centres, and then worked in the international sector in Asia. And now I live in Mexico. So yeah, my approach is very much therapeutic, playful, creative. So you can see from these lovely ladies with their outfits on that I do draw in creative, playful beings. And a lot of what I teach is more kind of fusing the psychology and the educational side of things and bringing it all together through yoga and meditation and mindfulness. So that's a little brief history on me so that you can have some idea of what I would be able to support you with regards to what questions you might want to ask. So I'm going to open it up to you ladies. So you can either type in the chat box, or since we are such a lovely small group, you can unmute yourselves. And any questions with regard, literally anything to do with kids yoga or even the business side of things. So let's open up to some questions. So you can either type your questions in the chat box or unmute yourselves and let me know. So there's obviously a reason that you're here other than just to see and listen to my voice on the weekends and to celebrate with me. But I'm sure, I know that you all have specific questions. So don't be afraid to be the first one to ask. So Crystal says, I quit my school job as well. If you're thinking of doing it, do it. You won't regret it. Yeah, that's what I did. And I get, in a way, it's like we're very privileged to be in whatever position you were in, to be able to do that. But also it really gives you the motivation to just get out there and do it, because you don't have a choice. There's no messing around with, oh, should I maybe I'll just try one class, or maybe I'll just play about with it. It's like if you quit your full-time job to dive into yoga or children's yoga full-time, then you are really productive very, very quickly, because you have to be. And that's not the way that everybody works, for sure. It's definitely a different personality trait that we have. But if you do have that impulsive nature and you know that you're a very productive person and that you just kind of, you're not a perfectionist, you just kind of go for it, then it's not as difficult as it might feel to just kind of jump into the fire or over the fire, not into the fire. All right, so Zara, what is your the most challenging part of a class? I think the two most challenging parts can be depends on the age group. I think it can be the beginning of the class where they're all getting settled and they're coming in with completely different energy levels, having experienced something different already in the day. So it might be that it's in the morning and they're all coming in from home. So they've got whatever's gone on at home and they're coming in and you've got to get them settled and really trying to get them in one place and not physically, well, yeah, physically, but trying to get them energetically and mentally on the same place. And then I would say, especially with the younger children, the end where I'm doing meditation, I think that can be the most challenging part. So you definitely got to have all of those skills and techniques to settle them down, but to also be working with the nervous system, to be fully working with the physiology of what's going on in the body, but also really meeting their individual needs, but on a group level. Because when you're working with a group, particularly if it's different age groups, they've all got different needs, different abilities. And with the meditation side, you know, when they come to lie down in their shavasana, not all of them need that right then. Some of them have got a need for movement. Some of them have got a need to keep their eyes open and really be aware of what's going on in the room. Some of them have got a need to just have quiet time. And when other children are moving about a little bit, they're like, this is supposed to be my relaxation. You know, you 5-year-olds be quiet. I'm 11 years old and I really need this relaxation because, you know, I've got all this stress going on at school and at home. So I would say that can be the most challenging part. And that's where you've really got to bring in those props, can really help, you know, like your eye pillows for the children that do want to block everything out. The squishy balls in their hands for those children that do need a little bit of movement. Mentally, they feel like they need movement, but physically their body really needs that rest time. And, you know, things like the sensory bottles or the mindfulness jars, which you can place, or something like if you have like an ocean light. I don't know if you have those. I don't know if they're called different things in different parts of the world, but definitely when I was living in Hong Kong, we called them ocean lights. And it's like a disco ball, but more relaxing. And I used to have one for myself. Well, I bought it for my classes, but then I used it for myself during my meditation time or when I couldn't sleep. It just projects like ocean patterns, like wave patterns on the ceiling. And it's just a tiny little light like this. So for those children that do need a visual focus in order to relax, having that. So the props are great for that, for the meditation time. And I would say that's probably the most challenging part of the class. But I think it can be a fun challenge because it does make you more creative, because you're seeing all these children with different needs. They all need relaxation no matter what. Like all children need some grounding, they need calming, they need nurturing, they need soothing. Their nervous system really needs that. But they all have individual needs on how to tap into that. And so for you as the teacher, you need to get really creative with it. And I think if you can look at your challenging, problematic times in your class as how can I get creative with this? So rather than looking at a problem, looking at it creatively, like critical thinking, creative thinking, then it makes it a lot less stressful for you as well, because you're using your creativity versus going into a stressful mode of like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. It's like, oh, what should I do? It's all mindset, right? There's two ways to look at everything. So nice question, Zara. Thank you. And anything to do with kids yoga, or like whether you're teaching it, whether you're using it at home, if you're wanting to start out off something new. So some of these lovely ladies on here have already said that they want to quit their job and jump into full-time kids yoga teaching. I mean, you know, I remember I went from like working 45 hours a week in education to full-time kids yoga, which was, you know, 16 hours a week. So I was like, this is dramatically different. But 16 hours of yoga classes it can be really tiring, you know, if you're doing back-to-back kids yoga classes. Just out of interest, who is currently teaching kids yoga or teen yoga or family yoga as their full-time or prime, like their main job, main source of income? Or yeah, I know Nikki, you've got your kids yoga studio. So who else is doing that? I think Christine is. Christmas tree Christine. She's not on the line right now, but full-time. So Nikki's teaching full-time yoga and dance. Oh, awesome. That makes sense to some of the movements you were doing yesterday in our yoga games. It's very graceful because you're a dancer. I have a lot of requests for free classes. How do I start earning money, especially now that it's mainly online? I mean, yeah, the free classes is okay. Free classes are great because it gives parents, families, kids, schools the opportunity to see what your teaching approach is, what your style is, you know, what you can offer, how you can support them, because you know, as yogis, right, you're not going to connect with every single teacher or every single type of yoga class that you go to. I'm sure we all have a specific type. Some of us love yin and restoration. Some of us are ashtanga. Some of us really love, you know, the power flow or vinyasa flow. Some of us are all about just going to only doing meditation classes. And sometimes we need a specific teacher, and it's the same with kids, right, and families. They're not necessarily all going to connect with you, and that's okay, because maybe you're offering your classes to a certain age group, or to children who have got ADHD, in which case that's not going to be suitable for children who are maybe in a mainstream school or whatever. So the free classes or trial classes are really great, because then families and schools can see what you're all about and see if you're a right fit for them. But at some point, you need to be charging money for it, right? You need to be recognizing your own worth, you know, all of your knowledge, your energy, your effort, your time, your experience. And even if you've not been teaching children's yoga for a long time, if you've got experience in education, special needs, therapeutically, social work, family work, running a yoga studio, adult yoga, so whatever your experience is, really recognizing that and valuing it, and then just transitioning into that. I spoke about this on one of my YouTube videos a few weeks ago, but having the free videos there, free classes there, is great, because it means that the kids who wouldn't ordinarily, perhaps the parents are not in a financial situation to actually be able to afford your classes. And that's okay, because again, it's not everybody is going to be able or willing to pay for kids yoga. You know, perhaps the families have got 100 other activities that the kids are doing, and kids yoga is not as important to that family. And of course, we do want to encourage them to join, because maybe they don't know the value of yoga and meditation for their children. But giving the free classes means that those children who wouldn't ordinarily get it do still have access to yoga and mindfulness. And the families will then start to see, or the schools, like, oh, this yoga thing actually works. She's calmer, or she focuses more, she really enjoys this. So they get to physically see the benefits of yoga and meditation on their children, which they wouldn't have if you were only offering paid classes. Yeah, so they try your free class, they connect with you, they start to trust you, they see the benefits. They see the benefits of your yoga techniques on the children. Sorry, it's really busy here. And then you just, at the end of your class, you just offer and say, okay, I have these paid classes. Thanks for joining me on this free trial class. Here's my paid courses. This is what I'm offering. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing an 8-week course in person, or I do online classes that are live every Tuesday morning. So you tell them what it is, and obviously get them to make sure you give them a way that they can contact you if they're interested in your paid classes. So whether that's online or in person, doing the same kind of the same trial. And you might not do a full class. If your regular classes are 60 minutes, maybe your trial is just 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So they get a little taster of what you're all about, what yoga actually is, how it can help their children. And the children get exposed to it. And then you offer it to them. So then if they don't want to take it, are not quite ready for it, or they don't necessarily see the value in yoga, they have your free class there, which they can come back to again and again if it's online. But yeah, the reality is you can't just keep giving free classes, because you need to find a sustainable income. And I would say the more that you do start to earn in maybe other sources of your okay, to give you an example, my online teacher training gives me the financial security so that I can run free things like this, because I have the financial stability from my online training, which then means I can employ more people to help me out, and then I don't have to do all this. It frees up some of my time. I don't have to do all the technology stuff, which I really don't like and I'm not very good at. So I employ someone to do that, which then gives me free time to be able to do this, which is what I'm good at, teaching, and I can do it for free. So it's like the financial side gives you more freedom to then help more people. That's how it works. And sometimes you need to get your head around that. And also having the confidence to say to families, here's the free stuff. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's valuable, but also here's my paid stuff. And that's just how life works. That is just how it is. So I think a lot of it is being confident around saying, if you've enjoyed this and you just want to keep doing the free trials, awesome. But if you really want to spend time with me, if you really want to, get the most out of children's yoga, then this is what I offer. These are my classes, these are my courses, and this is how much it costs. And so, yeah, Christine, I would say it's a little bit more about the confidence of and the awkwardness, and you've got to get over that. You've got to put, in all honesty, you've got to put yourself in really, really uncomfortable position a lot of the time. And push past that a little bit. And I can see some heads nodding, like clearly some of you ladies have been in this situation, and you just keep doing it. And it's not something that you do once and you're like, oh, now I can have awkward conversations about money in kids yoga. It's like, no, you still have to keep working on that. But do you know what? It is a personal transformation as well. It's not just about all of the business side. Those of you that have your own businesses or working as like a freelancer, you know that like personally you're overcoming a lot as well, because you're pushing yourself into awkward position, what feels awkward, what feels uncomfortable, which maybe doesn't feel right. You're switching your brain, your mindset, and your perspective So it is like a personal transformation as well.
Laura, this
is with many things.
My imposter syndrome kicks in. It was definitely at the beginning, you know, with like, oh God, how much am I actually worth? How much that it is really tricky. I'm not going to lie to anyone. It's really, really tricky at the beginning. And it's just exactly like Laura said, it's something you've got to plow through and just think to yourself, I'm knowledgeable. I know what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I want to offer it to as many as possible. But yeah, that imposter syndrome at the beginning, wow.
It's a real thing. And even sometimes I get it, but like I've been doing this for a long time, you know, like I know what I'm talking about. You can ask me any questions with regards to children's yoga, education, and I know I'm not even thinking about the answer, it just comes out my mouth. But I still sometimes, before I get on a workshop, especially if it's with new people, you know, if it's like 20 new people that don't know me, I still get this, like, as you call it, Chris, like imposter syndrome of like, oh, but what if? And it's like, stop being ridiculous. Like, that's what it is. It's just ridiculous insecurities that have come up from past experiences. That's just normal and human. And it is part of running a business. And I would say that it can be more difficult for us as women who are natural nurturers. You know, we're all teachers, we're all working with children, so we are all natural nurturers here. And we're in kids yoga and meditation because we want to support children and families. So however you lead it, it is therapeutic. So we are like natural healers, nurturers, maternal. And sometimes it doesn't feel right to be, you know, charging money for something that we know is going to be so beneficial for these families that we work with. But it's just not sustainable to not charge money unless you have like another source of income. And when you give you know, free classes, it really comes with ease and it's fun and it's joyful. But most of us, we do need a source of income as well. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Chris. And actually, on tomorrow's sessions, I know some of you in here are thinking about joining. I've got an activity that is going to show you where you're at with regards to pricing and how comfortable and uncomfortable it feels, and how to, I'm going to be like gently pushing you in a nice way to go over that edge of like uncomfortable. And I'm telling you, it will just like, it's just like a breakthrough, like mental breakthrough. All right, thank you for that question, Christine. Let's have a look at some more questions. So, Alison, did I miss you out? Yeah, no, Alison. And is concerned that I won't have any real practice with kids. Learning and practicing from the safety of my home is far removed from being surrounded by the little folk. So, yeah. How many children do you have, Alison? 2 at home.
Yeah, hi there. I've got 2, but I'm not sure that they're going to be very willing victims because they're 15 and 17 and a half.
Oh, but, well, I mean, it depends. I mean, teenage years are obviously can be a challenging one. I think as a kid, as the yoga teacher, obviously we have a totally different relationship with teenagers to the parents. So I guess it depends how you want to present that to them. But Charlie, your son is 13, right? And he was willing.
13 yesterday. He's on and off. Sometimes he'll help me. Sometimes he's not interested at all.
Yeah, no, my daughter is sometimes willing, sometimes not. Bribes often help.
Well, yeah. That's one way you can do it.
I've been saying, do you want to do Joe Wicks or do you want to do yoga? And then he'll choose.
yeah, giving two choices, giving bribes, but also maybe, I mean, it's not the right time, obviously, if you're in quarantine, but getting them to bring friends round and doing it with their friends. Depends, it really depends as well on your relationship with them. You know, a lot of teens are like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have my mom teach my friends yoga. That's so lame. But yoga and wellness is definitely becoming like really cool and trendy amongst teenagers now, which is great. I mean, who cares how they get exposed to it, whether it's, you know, through Instagram or whether it's because it's a cool fad, whatever. Let's just like get them into it and then get them addicted to it. So you could do it that way, or just maybe you don't start with your kids at home. You know, maybe it will be easier for you to build up your confidence going out and working with other children and working with teenagers in schools or online. And then once you've built your confidence there, which honestly won't take very long. Like some of these ladies will share with you, you do it one time and it's like, oh my gosh, that was like so much fun. And like you're buzzing from it, that just builds your confidence. And then maybe you can, because obviously you want your own children to benefit from it. That's like a huge reason, I'm sure, for many of you actually wanting to get into kids yoga is to benefit your own families. But yeah, you don't have to start with your own family. It really depends on your...
I've got a primary school opposite. I've actually gone to meet the head teacher who's really was quite excited or had been thinking about mindfulness classes prior to COVID. So yeah, I might have an avenue in there, but it's actually getting little people to work with, which is just impossible during lockdown at the moment. But hopefully after I've done my training and feel more confident, I can then go and see if I can get some classes with the school, or at least offer some after school kind of program or something to try and get some experience, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Like even during the training, you will, and again, these ladies on here who are currently doing the training with me, you know, we haven't even finished yet. And like a month ago, so many of them started doing kids yoga online, which is a huge thing. Like really, I'd say it's a massive challenge to put yourself out there online versus doing it in person. And like I've seen a lot of head nodding. So you know, it's hard for me to say. When people sign up, I'm like, you will have the confidence by the end of the training, I am telling you, but you just got to experience it for yourself, right? And you will, Alison, but you'll definitely have the confidence, you'll have the knowledge and the skills, and like you say, it is just a case of, you know, finding the actual children outside of, you know, your own quarantine. But it's the world is starting to open up, yay. You know, some countries are even almost back to normal, so you know, try and project forward into like September, and you'll see, and schools will be ready. You know, is there anybody here who's in Australia at the moment? You know, things have, okay, not really back to normal in Australia because they're not allowed to leave their own country, but within the country they are all back, you know, back to school. And yeah, they've obviously got guidelines and precautions, but there's, you know, the kids yoga teachers that I know that are based in Australia are now back into schools, back into yoga studios. So it won't be too long before the rest of us can get out there with the little people and look at them but not touch them. But
I've been thinking about oh sorry, I was just going to say I've been thinking about approaching the local council and seeing whether or not I can do something in the local park.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people ask that on like kids yoga forums. Yeah, because it is social distancing. You can definitely do family yoga as well. I think families are just like desperate to get outside. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it depends where you are in the world. I know I used to do that in Hong Kong, but we didn't need any permission because, you know, in most of Asia, it's just like, do whatever you please. But yeah, I think, you know, in England, you've got to get, and probably the States and Canada as well, you've got to get all the different permissions and insurances and things. But yeah, I think it's a great idea to get get them outside. It's
then
still,
you could if you felt comfortable with it, maybe do like a donation based class then, or something, or even a free one to start off with, just to get, you know, just to get a bit of interest and a bit of practice, and then you can see who you are then, you know. It's might be an idea. I know there was Laura, I know you're in a couple of the groups that I'm in on Facebook, the Kids Yoga UK and that type of thing. There were one or two teachers on there saying they've been into people's gardens and taught their children and taught the family outside in the garden. So I think there's definitely, and as we're coming into the summer as well, it's a bit easier in the UK, isn't it? So
yeah, I think definitely Europe, Canada, stateside, it's you could offer it to families and do it in their gardens for sure, family yoga, or even, you know, like one neighborhood who have got different kids who know each other coming together in one garden. So there's definitely options. Yeah, and you know, obviously going back to before when I was talking about not doing too many free classes, if your aim is just to get experience, then you know, get out there and offer it, because that's what you're gaining from it. You're gaining the experience, and that is, you know, for some of you, that's more important than the financial side, especially when you're just first starting out, you know, to get the experience, seeing what works, building up your confidence. You know, you can't pay for that. That's so valuable. And then once you are feeling confident, you're knowledgeable, you feel experienced, you know that you've got a lot to offer, that's when you then transition definitely into more the paid stuff. However, saying that, I'm not saying that you should be doing free stuff when you're new. It just has to feel right for you. So if your main aim is to get experience, absolutely get out there and do free stuff. But of course you can charge for your classes right away, because you are offering value to these families. Thank you, ladies. What else we got?
Laura, I've got one about encouraging boys into class. More boys.
Oh, okay.
Boys.
You want more boys in your classes? Yeah, I think it's typical. I mean, I'd be interested to hear what those of you who are currently teaching, and Nikki obviously owning a kids yoga studio. I see that maybe for every 8 girls you get one boy. That's more or less my experience, unless you're working within a school, which you're then probably going to get, it's not going to be 50-50, but maybe 60-40 girls and boys if you're working with part of the school curriculum. So you've got to think, sometimes it's, especially with the younger kids, it's not that the boys don't want to do it, it's perhaps that the parents are perceiving yoga as something that's not for boys, or that it's not going to help their little boy because they need to run off all their energy, you know. And that's it's a common misconception, and that's just because of the way that the world perceives yoga to be. You know, of course yoga is, we're calming, we're grounding, we're soothing, we're nurturing them, but we're also doing it in a way that helps them to release anxiety, nervousness, overexcitement, overwhelm, hyperactivity, and bringing them into that, you know, calm, soothed state. So we all know that, but we really need to explain that to parents. So it might be that you start using different words. So I use a lot of words like overcoming, hyperactivity, and overwhelm and overexcitement, because they are 3 things that we see a lot of like young boys, you know, high energy boys, that they do need to release that. And, you know, just like doing it through soccer or, you know, swimming is not the only way that they can do it. A lot of parents might think that meditation is not for their boys because they can't get their 6-year-old boy to sit down for dinner. So how are you going to get him to sit down for, you know, 4 minutes of relaxation? Because they don't necessarily know what we're doing in our classes. So I think that's where like free trials really help. You might even do like a kids yoga class that is just, you could try out doing it just for boys. I've never tried that, but you might want to, you could try it out that way. Or you could maybe do like a trial class where your theme is a little bit more like a typically stronger theme. So it could be like your theme is I am strong, I am powerful, or your theme is my inner superhero, or you know, something that's like, that is the masculine side of yoga. You know, we know that we all have a masculine and a feminine side. In yoga, we have masculine and feminine. So it's maybe playing up a little bit more to that masculine side of yoga in order to bring them in. Because that's it, right? I always think, you know, I really don't care what gets them through the door, but just get them through the door, right? So if they need to come to yoga, if you get teens coming to yoga because they initially want to do a handstand, or they want to look like a pretzel, they want to look like an Instagram model, I don't care, come in. I'm going to really show you what yoga actually is. But whatever gets them through the door first, and then they'll leave wanting more, like, it doesn't really matter. So maybe play up to the strength side. You could have a ninja theme, or you know, whatever's like current or relevant. But remember that you're speaking to the parents, really. You know, it's the parents that are bringing them, unless you're talking about, you know, teens, which I find I have more teen boys in my classes than I have under 10 boys in my class, under 10-year-old boys in my classes.
Yeah. Would something like a sport related thing, like yoga for football or yoga for rugby or something like that, would that work, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I used to work with some with like sports teams for teens and pre-teens. So running clubs I work with, dance associations, but that was mostly girls, swim clubs. So you could definitely teach it as, you could do like a 4-week course or something that is yoga for runners, yoga for whatever sports, yoga for football, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then also contacting those sports clubs as well. So maybe you can work directly with them, or you just kind of advertising through them to, because they all need it, right? And we actually need more men in kids yoga as well. And that's another thing. For every like 20 women that I get on my course, I'll get 2 men.
Yeah.
So,
but it's the same in primary teaching, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here in the UK, I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but here in the UK, how many male, especially reception to year 2, there's barely any at all, isn't there? It's shocking, really, because the boys need it.
It's I'd say it is we need to just like shift the perspectives, right? Just like we do in education, we need to shift this like stereotype of what kind of male teacher works in early years or works in primary school. We need to shift the parents' mindset of like what yoga actually is and how it can help their sons, you know, their boys. Yeah. So it's just like finding out the right vocabulary, really, a lot of the time, and using those words in your marketing, because parents are just going to browse over like, oh, yoga, okay, fluffiness that my child doesn't need. Yeah, but if they see like whatever activity is going to help your child with their soccer, with their, you know, and parents don't care necessarily that their child's going to learn how to breathe. Yeah, so what? He breathes anyway. He's fine. He's breathing all the time. Not a problem. You know, it's like they need to know.
Yes, he knows what he's doing.
Exactly. It's like, you know, how's it going to help them with their, you know, endurance and determination with whatever it is that they're doing with their sport, or with their focus and their concentration and their brain and their learning. So especially for those of you that are parents, it's like, what does a parent want for their child? Parent doesn't want their child to be able to breathe and meditate. No, a parent wants their child to be healthy, happy, to be able to focus, to be able to learn, to be able to socialize. So that's what we need to focus on in order to you know, engage the parents into what we're actually offering.
And self-regulation is just like the thing, isn't it? Learning to be able to self-regulate is.
Yeah. But breaking that down even further and remembering that you're speaking to parents.
Yeah.
You know, what does that even mean? And it can be hard because you've got to put yourself in the mindset of a parent who isn't necessarily open to yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thinking like, what do they want? Self-regulate. I mean, what even is that? What do they need? What are they going to get from that? Oh, it means they'll stop having meltdowns. Oh, yeah. Okay. You can do that in 2 classes. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm in an area here in South Wales where yoga for adults it's not new, but it's not massive, if you know what I mean, let alone yoga for children. So, you know, I know in the States, I mean, there's areas where it's huge, in other parts of the world, it's huge. Whereas I'm in this quite small town in South Wales, and yes, there are yoga teachers, adult yoga teachers. There are no other children's yoga teachers in my area, which was another massive plus point for trying to start the business.
Yeah.
But I'm still up against that, as you were saying, parents that don't even know what yoga is really about, never mind, you know, so it's just educate the entire time. Yeah.
Definitely. It is educating the parents for sure. And also for the schools as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is something that is going to be a massive topic tomorrow, my VIP day, actually getting your message across, what vocabulary should be using, like super specific on who you want to work with and how you actually communicate with them, because you know how you communicate with a school is so different to how you would communicate with a hospital that you want to work with, you know, children's hospice, for example, or how you would speak to a parent that is a yoga teacher versus a parent who is really skeptical about yoga and meditation. So we need to communicate with them, you know, effectively, because that's who we're communicating with, to make sure that we get the children through the doors. And once you start working with the children, you're working with the whole family then. So it's so, you know, as we know, it's so beneficial, like for more than just the child. But in order to get the children in, we need to basically convince the parents that this is what their children need. All right, nice question. Okay, Zara, do I recommend insurance? No, I don't. I always get this question. No, because I can't possibly, we are such a massively global community. I am based in the UK, but I live in Mexico and I work in Asia. So to be honest, I don't recommend insurance. I don't recommend, I don't have any recommendations for things that are like the legal side of stuff, because I don't know enough in each country to be off that. Definitely, you know, because also each country requires different insurances. You know, working in particularly the UK, the States, I know the States requires like 2 different types of insurance to work with certain yoga studios and within yoga. Yeah, and then for me, you know, I started out working in Hong Kong, where it was like I didn't need my own insurance. The yoga studio that I was working with covered me, the schools cover me. You know, suing is just not a thing in Asia. It's just like, it's so very different to working like in North America and in Europe. So you could definitely look at the Yoga Alliance, and yeah, online. I've had some, I think I mentioned this the other day in the training, but I had someone, I suggested to someone that they start doing their classes online. And she said, oh no, because I need a different type of insurance. And she was based in the UK. And I was like, really? Oh my gosh, I don't know enough about that, because I'm pretty sure you don't need a different type of insurance to go online, because that would mean like every Instagrammer, everyone who's on Facebook doing Facebook Lives, everyone on YouTube would need to have a separate type of insurance. And I just don't think that is the case, but I don't know. So that's why I don't offer advice on stuff like that, because I would really really hate to offer some sort of advice and say, oh, you don't need this, you don't need that. And then something happen and, you know, you've taken my advice, because I don't know enough about it. So I'm super you know, I'm super honest and open about that. Charlie, do you do pediatric first aid and safeguarding training as a yoga teacher? Again, it depends where you work. I did, but that's because I was working in a kindergarten, like early years center. And I just think it's, you just, for my own mental state, I wanted to know that I could help a child if something had happened to them. So I think you know, it's completely up to you. Again, it depends on if your insurance policy requires that. Depends where you're working. So some schools will absolutely require you to have that. You know, obviously if you're working in the UK, again, I imagine in North America as well, you need to have your, you know, police check, your CBR, whatever they call it in your country, and probably you need to have your first aid certificate, whether that's in pediatric or just in general. But I think it is a good thing to have, just so that you know that if you're working with children by yourself, so if you're in a yoga studio where you don't have anyone else with you, or if you're working in a family home where you're one-on-one and the parents go out while you're working with them, or anywhere where you are, it's just you and the children, you know, you never want to be in a situation where something happens and then you have no idea how to help them. So again, it's a choice, or it might be down to your insurance, but I think it's for your own like mental well-being to know that you can help children if there is an emergency. Yeah. All right. Oh, Christine, you teach in Costa Rica. Yay, cool. And they still ask me if it's against religion. Yeah, so predominantly Catholic, right? Yeah, it's funny. Well, it's when I first started teaching yoga, I thought the main difference, because I was working in the Middle East as well, and I thought that it might be more of a challenge working in countries that are predominantly Muslim. But actually, I found that working in countries where it's predominantly Christian, that they really, they are concerned that it is related to religion, which, you know, yoga is a spiritual practice, can be a spiritual practice. Okay, it doesn't always have to be, but if you're looking at yoga as a whole, it is a spiritual practice. But you can be a spiritual practitioner of yoga and practice any religion that you want. And I think, again, it's like, we want to get them in so that they can feel the benefit. So when you're working with parents or families who are concerned that yoga is against their religion, just reassure them that what you are going to be focusing on in the classes is the physical side, so helping them with blah, 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 and the mental side, so, you know, helping them with concentration and focus, and that anything else is, you know, that you're going to be focusing on themes that are relatable and relevant to every religion, you know, so connecting to nature, loving kindness, compassion, empathy, gratitude, all of that. I mean, everything that is within yoga, the Yoga Sutras, yoga philosophy, aside from the Hindu mythology, you know, everything else is really, really relatable to every religion, you know. And what parent doesn't want their child to have a sense of self-appreciation, loving kindness, compassion for others, you know, wanting to be connected with others, connected to nature, you know, all parents want that, like on a fundamental level. So I think just reassuring them and being honest with them as well. But you're not going to be going into a Christian school and then teaching about, you know, Hindu mythology, for example. Like, it just wouldn't be appropriate. So choosing what is appropriate to teach in that school or that community, and yeah, making sure that you're basically just making the parents feel at ease and being honest with them, I would say. So you know, it's not appropriate to go into a school that is predominantly Muslim and be teaching about Christian God, and it vice versa, right? So we're only going to be teaching what is culturally and religiously appropriate, and you're just choosing those aspects of yoga, and you're still teaching the whole of yoga. You know, you can still teach them yoga philosophy without having to talk about Buddhism or Hinduism, and just focusing on the ethical guidelines and the morals of doing that. So yeah, it's just reassuring the parents. That is a good question, and something that definitely comes up if you're working internationally, but also if you're working online, it's something to consider as well. So for those of you that are part of my Mindful Teachers membership, all of the lesson plans, because I've got people from literally all over the globe as part of that membership program. So I don't do lesson plans on any celebrations. You know, I don't do lesson plans that are about Christmas or Easter or Diwali or Holi. It's very much either connected to nature or connected to some aspect of yoga philosophy that is not related to Hinduism or Buddhism. Equally, I don't do things that are irrelevant from one side of the world to the other, you know, because while Australia are celebrating in their summer, North America are in the height of winter. So I'm not teaching anything online or offering offering lesson plans to teachers that are related to seasons. Or things that are going on, whether it's festivities or times of the year, because what they're celebrating in Australia is completely different to North America. What they're celebrating in South Africa is completely different to what they're experiencing in, you know, Southeast Asia. So it's been really, and it can take a little while, especially if you're new to teaching globally or internationally, which if you're teaching online, you're teaching globally and internationally. So it's really something to consider. And I often will, even being like, oh, good morning. And it's like, oh, actually for you, it's the evening, and for you, it's the afternoon, and for you, it's the middle of the night. So it's just kind of being something that you need to be aware of.
And there are some things I think as well that I felt a little bit of under pressure sometimes to do lessons. Like you see a lot of teachers again on Facebook doing, oh, what's everyone doing for Halloween? What's everyone doing for Valentine's Day? What's everyone doing for Mother's Day, Father's Day? And that doesn't sit very well with me. The Halloween thing doesn't sit with me anyway, but even sort of like the Mother's and the Father's Day, and you're thinking, God, be mindful of the people of the children you have in your class. Mm-hmm. You know, there could be children there without mothers, without fathers, you know. There's as you grow and you join more and more groups and you speak to more and more teachers, there seems to be a little bit more, I mean, it's how you handle it, I guess, but that, like, some of them were doing lessons and I was thinking, God, should I be doing that? Should I be doing a yoga lesson on that? And sometimes it just doesn't sit, does it? It just doesn't, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Christine. Like, thanks for bringing it up, because I think, especially again, once you're spending more time online, you do see, oh, that teacher's doing that, I should do it. Oh, that school's doing that, should I be doing that? And if it doesn't fit right with you, and it's like, if you're asked to work in a school that you know that you're going to have to restrict or change some of the things that you would normally teach, and it doesn't feel right for you, then don't take the job. But yeah, don't be always like checking in with yourself. And, you know, as those that practice yoga, we can very quickly check in, like, how does this feel? It doesn't feel right, I'm going to say no to that. So really always like going with your intuition, how it actually feels here, because otherwise you will regret it in the end. Yeah. But thank you for sharing that, Chris. All right, I'll do one more question and then we're going to take a break, and got a workshop in 25 minutes. All right, Nikki said, I always just have a disclaimer at the beginning of the online video. Oh, okay, yeah, you're based in Canada. In choosing to exercise with online videos, I do so at my own risk and acknowledge that exercise carries an inherent risk of physical injury. Yeah, this is really similar to the disclaimer that I have on my in-person teacher trainings, but that is great that you've transitioned that to online videos as well. Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice, Nikki. Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think it's definitely, and again, especially in certain countries, because that is just the way it is. Some countries there isn't any kind of health and safety, which is not necessarily beneficial, and sometimes it is. So it's just being really aware of where you're working and the people that you're working with. Yeah, thank you, Nikki. All right, any final questions before we leave? Did I earn a living working 16 hours a week? Yeah, so when I started teaching, I jumped from education and was like, oh my God, this is not my thing. I just want to go into full-time yoga teaching, right? So, and an opportunity just came up randomly, like really randomly, to work with a yoga studio in Hong Kong that was a full-time with a contract. That never happens for yoga teachers in Hong Kong. It was like, when I look back on it now, I'm like, I totally manifested that. Like, I just had no idea like how good I had it either. And it was full-time, so it was 15 hours a week. And then I was taking on a lot of extra classes as well. So anything that came up, to substitute classes or working with like Hong Kong, there was like always a festival or always something going on. And so I was taking on a lot of extra classes. I definitely took on too much. I remember having in my diary, like I had done 74 days without a day off. And I wrote in my diary, this is your day off, do not cross it out. Because what I used to do is put day off, and then I'd be like, oh, well, I'll just do these 2 classes, so cross that out. So I did 74 days without a day off, and it was really exhausting, to be quite honest, because you are giving a lot, within yoga, and I was doing adult yoga classes as well. But yeah, I mean, at that time, it was kind of, I was new, so I wanted a lot of as much experience as I could get. I was working with lots of different groups. I was working with, as I said, like a running club and a swimming club, and then with schools, with a yoga studio. Like I was working in corporate yoga. I was working with HSBC in Hong Kong doing corporate yoga, like on literally like the 100th floor. I'd do it at like 8 o'clock at night, and then all the bankers would go back to work. I was like, what are you doing? Go home. So I was doing like everything possible because I just wanted to get as much experience as I possibly could. And yeah, and I was definitely earning a living from that. And I look back on it now and I was like, wow, I was definitely getting paid a lot less than other yoga teachers. But I was new, and I definitely didn't have a great money mindset. I was just I was very much in the mindset of like, you need to work really hard to make more money. Whereas now I'm like, no, you need to recognize your own worth, and you need to work smart, not necessarily work more. And you choose the things that give you energy, like when I come off our 4-hour workshops that we do together on Tuesdays, I am like buzzing with energy. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? I'm not like, oh, I'm exhausted. That was so tiring. So it's like finding those jobs that really do like spark you up, light you up, not just trying to take everything on. But sometimes you do need to try a little bit of everything to figure out what it is that you specifically want to do. But yeah, you can definitely be working, 16 hours a week and earning more money than you would be if you are working 45 hours a week, and especially if you do work online and you've got some sort of passive income, which I know I've talked to a couple of you about, because then it's just, if you're working for someone else, you've got a set salary. Like that's just the way it is. Maybe you get a pay rise or whatever. But if you're doing your own classes, you're setting your own prices, you're setting your own boundaries, and especially if you're doing it online, where it's like, here's recorded classes, they've already been done. If you like them, this is how much they cost. Then that's kind of limitless. So it's still the same offering, but people are getting to pick and choose what they want and when they want it, and you're just saying these are the prices. So there's definitely more, like, there can be much more financial stability and more financially rewarding when you have like a passive income online, or when you're setting your own prices. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This is really nice and fun for me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you so much to those of you that typed in your questions and shared some lovely feedback. That's really, really valuable. For those of you that have signed up to my teacher training, whether you're here now like Alison, or whether you're watching the recording, this is a little taster of what it's like with our awesome group, that it's not just me throwing out ideas and feedback, but it's everybody else in the group who's got so much valuable experience and feedback as well. And for those of you that are thinking about joining the VIP day, so I have had, surprise, surprise, like it's the day before, and I always get last minute sign-ups for things like this, and always get last minute emails of like, oh, okay, I've been thinking about doing it for like 3 months, but now it's like, should I do it or not? And I would just say that who it really is for those that, because it's focused on the business side. So it's not for anyone who's thinking about, you know, maybe if you're struggling with like the sequencing or the planning or the creating, or how do you get kids to be engaged, that is more my Mindful Teachers membership or my online trainings. But the VIP day tomorrow is really focused on the business. So if you want to grow your kids' yoga classes, you want to grow your income, you want to start a new project, you want to work with schools, or perhaps you want to start doing online classes, or you want to move into workshops for parents or teachers. So if you want to start off something new, or you want to grow what you're already doing, then definitely the VIP day is going to help you out. So we're really focusing on communicating with whoever you need to communicate with, like how do you speak with them? So we already had a little taster of that before with some of the questions that came up. Pricing and understanding your own worth, overcoming some discomforts with that. And my intention really is it's going to be super practical. There's going to be a lot more, because it's going to be a small group, so it's going to be a lot more communication, like back and forth between us. And it's like me giving you a little bit of information and knowledge, you writing down how you're going to practically do that, and then you tell me how you're going to do that, and I'm going to say yes, no, yes, yes, no, and then I'm going to help you. So it's like coaching, but then also the consulting side, which is that you need to do this and you need to say this. So it's like a little bit of both. And yeah, I think that's all I've really got to say on it. I had like a couple of things that because it is going to be small and it is not for everyone. So it's definitely for those that want to either start a project and want some support with that, or want to grow. And yeah, my intention is that you're going to be getting started fully on it whilst we're on the classes. And maybe some of you will get some sign-ups whilst we're on the workshops. That would be great. But it's really my aim by the end of the month that you're going to see your return on your investment. So the payment that you will pay to get the information and the action plan and that's individualized knowledge, I want to see you get that back within the first couple of weeks, so if you take action on it. So again, if you are really an action taker, then it's going to be super, super beneficial for you. But if you've got any other questions, you can let me know, and obviously I'll email you or can hop onto a quick call. But yeah, it would be lovely to have some of you ladies, or those watching the recordings, ladies and gents, on there tomorrow. And yeah, in 15 minutes, I'm running a workshop. So if you want to join, it's focusing on, what are we doing? Self-appreciation, self-love, and accepting and respecting. So lots of fun ideas on how you can integrate that into your family life or into your kids' yoga classes. All right. Thank you so much for all of your lovely feedback, everybody. I will see you in 15 minutes. It's the same link, or you can just mute yourself. Thank you so much, ladies. See you soon.